The great silver ship USS Horizon floated quietly above the glowing planet of Valaris Prime. The world shimmered like a blue gem in the darkness of space. Below, huge crystal towers reached toward the clouds, reflecting sunlight in rainbow colors. It was the home of the Valari, a peaceful and ancient race known for their beauty, wisdom, and powerful emotions. For humanity, this meeting was a historic moment. The first official diplomatic dinner between humans and Valari. Every human aboard the Horizon was told to act with perfect manners, speak carefully, and avoid any cultural mistakes. But for Lieutenant James Carter, this was easier said than done. James was not a soldier or a politician. He was a communications officer, a man who loved languages, jokes, and curiosity. He was young, with brown hair, nervous eyes, and a heart that always got him into trouble. He had spent weeks studying the Valari language, hoping to impress the alien diplomats with a few polite words. Unfortunately, he did not know that some Valari words sounded almost the same, but meant completely different things. The diplomatic dinner. The banquet hall of the Valari Palace looked like something out of a dream. Soft blue lights floated in the air like fireflies. Long tables were covered with shining plates of crystal and glowing fruits. Music drifted gently from instruments that seemed to play themselves. At the far end of the room stood Ambassador Lyravan, leader of the Valari Council, tall, graceful, and impossibly calm. She had eyes that shimmered like silver water and long, dark blue hair that moved as if touched by wind. Even among her people, she was known for her wisdom and composure. When James saw her, he froze for a moment. "No pressure," he whispered to himself. "Just don't say anything stupid." Captain Reynolds, the human commander, leaned toward him. "Carter, just smile and bow when introduced. Let the translators handle the rest." James nodded quickly. He could do that. Easy. But when the moment came, everything went wrong. The mistake when Lyravan approached, she extended her hand, a Valari gesture of peace. James bowed slightly, smiled nervously, and tried to say the phrase he had practiced all week. He wanted to say, "Valari Suthalen." It meant, "Thank you for the honor of meeting you." But his tongue stumbled. His nerves got the better of him. Instead, he said, "Valari Suthalon." The room went silent. Lyravan's glowing eyes widened slightly. Around her, the Valari attendants froze. The air seemed to hum with quiet energy. Captain Reynolds frowned. What did he just say? The translator drone beeped and softly announced in English, "I offer my eternal life bond to you." James blinked. "Wait. What?" No, I said thank you." The translator repeated in a calm voice, "I offer my eternal life bond to you." The Valari musician stopped playing. The other diplomats began whispering rapidly in their musical language. Lyravan's hand lowered, and a strange light glowed faintly around her wrists, a Valari sign of emotional resonance. Then, to everyone's shock, she smiled. "I accept," she said in perfect English. Shock and panic, Captain Reynolds nearly dropped his drink. The human officers looked at each other in horror. "Lieutenant Carter," the captain hissed, "what did you just do?" I don't know," James stammered. "I was just trying to say hello." Lyravan turned to the crowd and raised her hands gracefully. The Valari guests began humming softly, a sound like 1,000 crystal bells. James realized they were beginning some kind of ritual. 2 attendants stepped forward with glowing ribbons made of energy. "Oh no," James whispered. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." The ribbons wrapped around his wrist and Lyravan's, forming a faint golden glow between them. It felt warm and alive. The Valari crowd cheered softly. Captain Reynolds ran forward, whispering harshly, "Carter, stop smiling. You just proposed to an alien ambassador." "I wasn't smiling," James whispered back in panic. "My face just does that when I'm terrified." Lyravan looked at him with calm eyes. "Human James Carter," she said softly, "our bond is witnessed by both our peoples. Do you accept this connection in spirit and truth?" He waved his hands wildly. No, I mean yes, wait, not that kind of yes. I mean I didn't mean to. This is a misunderstanding. The translator repeated. I reaffirm my bond with all my heart. James froze in horror. That's not what I said. The ceremony continues. The Volari choir began to sing a deep, harmonic melody. It echoed through the crystal walls, making the whole hall vibrate. Lyravan's attendants surrounded them, sprinkling silver dust that floated like stars. James tried to escape, but the energy ribbons held his wrist gently, refusing to let go. He looked desperately at Captain Reynolds, who was already surrounded by Volari guards trying to explain the sacred importance of what had just happened. Can't you just tell them it was a mistake? James begged. The captain groaned. You think I'm not trying? Their translator just told me that breaking a bond proposal is an insult worse than war. James groaned loudly. So I accidentally proposed to an alien, and now I can't say no? The captain rubbed his forehead. Congratulations, Lieutenant. You just became the most important man in the galaxy. Private conversation. After the ceremony ended, Lyravan invited James to her private chamber to discuss their union. The human officers wanted to protest, but the Volari insisted it was tradition. The chamber was filled with soft lights and a gentle hum that felt alive. The walls looked like flowing water, constantly changing color. Lyravan stood near a large window overlooking her glowing city. James followed awkwardly, trying not to trip on his own feet. Ambassador Lyravan, about earlier. I really didn't mean to propose, I just mixed up two words. She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. You spoke from your heart. The Bond responded. My heart was mostly saying, don't mess this up, he muttered. Lyravan smiled slightly. You are different from other humans I have met. They hide their feelings behind logic and duty. You speak with emotion, even when afraid. James sighed. I think that's just called panic. She stepped closer. The bond mark on his wrist glowed faintly again. Perhaps fate guided your words, James Carter. Fate? No, that was just me being an idiot. Perhaps, she said softly. But sometimes even mistakes have meaning. He looked at her for a moment, noticing the calm warmth in her silver eyes. Despite the situation, she didn't seem angry or offended. In fact, she looked curious. Can this bond be undone? He asked quietly. In time, she replied. But until then, you are part of Volari custom. You will stay near me, so the bond can stabilize. James groaned. So I'm grounded with my accidental fiancé? Lyravan tilted her head. Fiancé? That is a human word, yes? I like it. He face-palmed. Of course you do. The ending of Part 1A's. The night deepened. James sat by the window of Lyravan's chamber, staring down at the glowing city below. The world looked peaceful, calm, and completely alien. He whispered to himself, How do I always end up in trouble? A soft voice came from behind him. Because you have a brave heart, human. He turned to see Lyravan standing there, her expression gentle. The golden bond light shimmered faintly between them. James sighed. If bravery means saying the wrong word, then yeah, I'm the bravest guy in the galaxy. Lyravan smiled again. Perhaps bravery takes many forms. He looked out the window once more. Well, I guess I'm engaged to an alien now. She stepped beside him, gazing at the stars. Then let us see what the stars have planned for us. Bondmate. The scene faded as the two stood side by side, the light of their new bond glowing softly, a mistake that would soon change the fate of two worlds. The morning light of Valaris Prime painted the palace in shades of silver and blue. The city below sparkled like a sea of crystals. Birds with shining feathers flew between the towers, and the air was calm, at least for most of the planet. For Lieutenant James Carter, calm was the last word that described his morning. He woke up on a large floating bed in a room filled with glowing vines. His uniform had been neatly cleaned and folded beside him. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he saw the golden mark glowing softly on his wrist, the sign of his life bond with Ambassador Lyravan. Oh no, he groaned, covering his face with a pillow. It wasn't a dream. The door opened with a gentle sound. Lyravan entered, holding a tray of crystal cups that steamed with a blue-scented drink. "Good morning, bondmate," she said calmly. James peeked out from under the pillow. "Please don't call me that." She tilted her head. "Why not? You accepted the bond. I didn't accept anything. I accidentally proposed." Her lips curved slightly. "Intentions are sometimes less important than truth. The bond responded because your spirit spoke honestly." "My spirit has bad timing," he muttered. The news from Earth before James could reply further. His communicator beeped loudly. He quickly answered. The holographic face of Captain Reynolds appeared above the tray, looking like he hadn't slept all night. "Carter," the captain said sharply, "we've got a situation." James sat up. "Please tell me you found a way to undo this bond thing," Reynolds sighed. "I wish. According to Volari law, breaking a life bond is forbidden unless both partners agree. If we push it, they'll see it as an insult. That could destroy our treaty. So, what do I do?" "For now, you play along," Reynolds said. "You'll stay close to the ambassador, follow their customs, and keep things peaceful. The diplomatic team is working on a quiet solution." James groaned. "So I'm officially engaged to an alien ambassador. Until further notice?" "That's the situation, Lieutenant. Congratulations. You're now humanity's most important representative." James slumped back. "I didn't even get breakfast first." Lyravan looked amused. "You humans handled destiny with strange humor." Learning to live as bondmates. For the next few days, James and Lyravan spent time together, mostly because Volari custom demanded it. They attended meetings, walked through the glowing gardens of the palace, and visited the Council of Harmony, where alien leaders watched them closely. Everywhere they went, people whispered about the legendary human who offered the sacred bond. At first, James was embarrassed and frustrated. Every word he said seemed to have a double meaning in Volari culture. He once complimented Lyravan's hairstyle, not realizing the phrase translated as, "Your aura soothes my soul." The council almost began another ceremony before she stopped them. But slowly, he began to understand her world. Lyravan explained that Volari emotions created real energy. Feelings of love or fear could change the flow of power around them. Their buildings even glowed brighter when people were happy. James listened with fascination. In return, he shared stories of Earth, of sunsets over the oceans, music played in small cafes, and how humans loved to laugh even when life was hard. Lyravan was deeply curious about it all. She often asked questions about simple things like dancing or chocolate. "Humans seem to enjoy chaos," she once said, as they stood by a glowing fountain. James smiled. "It's not chaos. It's passion. We make mistakes, but sometimes they lead to beautiful things." She looked at him quietly. "Perhaps that is what makes your kind strong." The hidden connection. One evening, Lyravan invited James to the Chamber of Resonance, a peaceful hall filled with floating lights. There she explained that the life bond wasn't just symbolic. It connected their life energy. When one was near danger or pain, the other would feel it. "That's comforting," James said carefully, "and also terrifying." "Do not fear it," she said softly. "It means neither of us will ever face the void alone." He looked at her glowing eyes and smiled faintly. "I'm starting to think the universe has a strange sense of humor." For a brief moment, they both laughed. The golden mark on their wrists pulsed lightly, glowing in sync. For the first time, James didn't mind it. A new threat. Just as he was starting to relax, everything changed. One night, alarms echoed through the palace. The sky outside turned red with flashing lights. Lyravan immediately moved toward the balcony, her expression tense. "What's happening?" James shouted over the sound. A Volari guard ran in. "Ambassador!" "The Raxthul fleet has entered orbit. They accuse the humans of spying on their colonies." James's eyes widened.
"What? That's insane."
"We didn't even know they were in this sector." Lyravan turned to him. "The Raxthul have long distrusted outsiders. Your arrival may have frightened them." "Frightened? They've got a whole armada out there." She placed a calming hand on his wrist. "Fear leads to destruction. We must act with reason." Moments later, a message came through the palace's central screen. The image of a towering insect-like alien appeared. A Raxthul warlord with sharp eyes and a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "Volari leaders, you bond with these human invaders while they build weapons near our borders. Choose. Dissolve this bond and reject the humans, or face the might of the Raxthul fleet. The transmission ended, leaving silence behind. Captain Reynolds appeared next on the screen, speaking quickly. Ambassador Lirov and Lieutenant Carter. The fleet is forming defensive positions. We're trying to open communications, but they're demanding proof that our bond isn't a political trick. Lirovin looked thoughtful. They wish to test our unity. Reynolds frowned. Ambassador, with all due respect, this bond is the reason we're in trouble. James looked between them. Maybe, or maybe it's the only way out. Both turned to him. If we show them that humans and Valari can stand together, really stand together, maybe they'll believe we're not enemies. James said. We could go to them. Talk to them face to face. Reynolds' hologram looked doubtful. That's a suicide mission. Lirovin met James's eyes. Where my bondmate goes, I go. Our link is proof of our intent, Reynolds sighed. You two are either the bravest or the craziest people I've ever met. Probably both, James said, preparing for the mission. The next day, they boarded a small silver ship, the Starlance, bound for the Raxthul front line. Valari engineers loaded it with energy shields and translation drones. The crew bowed respectfully as the bonded pair entered the vessel. Inside the cockpit, James ran his hands over the unfamiliar controls. You sure you trust me to fly this? I trust the bond, Lirovin replied simply. And I trust you. Her calm voice gave him strange confidence. As the ship lifted off, he looked through the window at Velaris Prime, the shining world growing smaller behind them. He thought of Earth, of his crewmates, and of how one small mistake had brought him here. He turned to her. You know, when I accidentally proposed, I didn't expect it to lead to intergalactic peace talks, she smiled. Life often begins with accidents. The stars stretched into long silver lines as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. Silence filled the cabin for a moment. James looked at her again, his voice soft. Maybe the universe didn't make a mistake after all. Lirovin's eyes glowed gently. Perhaps it never does. Him, Ambassador Lirovin, sat calmly, her silver blue eyes reflecting the endless galaxy outside. Despite the beauty, tension filled the cabin. Ahead lay the Raxthul fleet, an enormous armada of insect-like warships, each bristling with weapons and energy shields. Their leader had made a bold threat. Either humans renounced their bond with the Valari or they would attack. James glanced at Lirovin. So this is it, huh? The prove we're not enemies mission. She smiled faintly. It is a test of unity, not fear. James swallowed. Unity sounds better than fear, but I'm still terrified. Her calm presence eased his nerves slightly. Fear is natural. Courage comes from choice, not absence of fear. James nodded. Well, in that case, let's be courageous. Together, entering enemy territory, the Starlance approached the Raxthul fleet. The ships were massive, black as obsidian, with spiky shells and glowing red cores. They moved like a living organism, circling in perfect formation. Energy beams crackled between them, forming barriers no ordinary ship could penetrate. A Raxthul commander appeared on the screen. His voice sounded like grinding metal. Valarian human, your bond is meaningless. If you wish to survive, one of you must break it and renounce the other. James glanced at Lirovin. Break it? Not a chance. This bond isn't fake, it's real. Lirovin's golden mark glowed softly on her wrist. Then we will show them its truth. The Raxthul commander's eyes narrowed. Then prepare to be destroyed. The fleet opened fire. Energy blasts streaked through space, targeting the Starlance. Alarms blared. James pressed buttons frantically. Dodging and weaving between beams, the ship shuddered, but the energy shields held. Human ingenuity. As the Raxthul attack continued, James realized raw strength wasn't enough. He needed to outsmart them. He grabbed a manual override and whispered, Let's hack them, the human way. Lirovin raised an eyebrow. Hack? Short for... Well, trust me, he said. Fingers flying over the controls, he sent a signal through the Raxthul communication network. It wasn't damaging their ships. It was broadcasting a live message of peace, their united presence, across the fleet. The Raxthul commanders paused. They hadn't expected this. The humans and Valari standing together unafraid seemed different. James glanced at Lirovin. Your species always impresses me. Calm under pressure, she smiled softly. And your species surprises me. Bold in danger, clever in thought. The danger and the bond. Suddenly a massive energy blast hit the Starlance. The ship rocked violently. James gritted his teeth and tried to stabilize it, but Lyravan was thrown across the cabin. He reached for her, grabbing her arm just in time. Her body glowed faintly from the impact. The bond pulsed brightly on their wrists. Energy flowed between them, and James felt a strange warmth and strength. The connection wasn't just symbolic, it was real. Through the bond, he could stabilize her energy, prevent injury, and even share some of his strength with her. "Are you okay?" he shouted, still holding her close. "I am," she said, voice calm but tinged with pain. "Your courage strengthens me, human. The bond is more powerful than either of us imagined." James nodded. "Good. Because if we survive this, I don't want any more accidental proposals." She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes in sunlight. "You have a unique way of speaking, James Carter." The turning point. The Raxthul fleet was still hostile, but their commander watched with caution. The energy pulsing from the bond, visible even to them, impressed and unnerved them. No human or Volari alone could have survived this encounter. Together, however, they created a presence that radiated unity and strength. James made a decision. "Lyravan, let's show them everything humans can do, together." She nodded. Together. The Starlets moved forward boldly, directly into the heart of the fleet. Using both human ingenuity and Volari energy manipulation, they disrupted the Raxthul shields, opened communication channels, and broadcast a clear message. "We are not enemies. Our bond represents trust and unity between species. Violence will not serve any of us. Stand down and listen." The message echoed across the fleet. The Raxthul commanders hesitated, their weapons faltering. Slowly, the massive fleet stopped its attack. Peace through unity. After tense moments, the Raxthul commander finally responded. His massive form appeared on the main screen again. "Humans and Volari, your bond is real. You show strength in your unity. We will cease hostilities." James leaned back in relief. "Well, that was terrifying. And awesome." Lyravan touched his arm gently. "It is remarkable what two species can accomplish when fear is set aside." The fleet retreated peacefully, leaving Valeris Prime and humanity unharmed. Their alliance had been proven stronger than weapons, stronger than fear. Returning as heroes, the Starlets returned to Valeris Prime to a hero's welcome. Lights flashed across the crystal towers, and people cheered for the human who accidentally proposed and the Volari ambassador who accepted. Their bond had not only survived, it had become a symbol of unity between worlds. Captain Reynolds was waiting. "Carter," he said with a mix of relief and exasperation, "you somehow turned your mistake into a victory for humanity." James shrugged. "Honestly, I think it helped to have Lyravan beside me." She smiled at him. "And I could not have done it without you." The golden bond mark glowed softly on both their wrists, a permanent reminder of courage, trust, and the unexpected ways life could unfold. Life after the bond months later, James stood with Lyravan on a balcony overlooking Valeris Prime. The twin suns rose over the crystalline city, painting the sky with gold and pink. The planet sparkled like a jewel, a symbol of hope for both Volari and humans. James turned to her. "You know, when I first proposed, I thought I had ruined everything." Lyravan laughed lightly. "And yet that mistake became something extraordinary." He smiled faintly. "Not bad for an accident." She looked at him, her eyes glowing with warmth. "Perhaps humanity's greatest strength is turning mistakes into miracles." James chuckled. "Well, I'll take that as a compliment." They stood side by side, the golden bond glowing softly between them. It was a connection that had begun as a mistake, but now it was real, a symbol of unity, courage, and the strength of the human heart. Somewhere deep in the galaxy, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter that day. Two species bound together by trust and respect had proven that even an accidental proposal could change the fate of worlds. And as James gazed at the horizon, he whispered to himself, "I guess mistakes aren't always so bad after all." Lyravan's voice was soft, calm and steady, especially when they lead to destiny. "Bondmate." They shared a quiet smile, knowing that together they could face any challenge, and that perhaps the universe had guided them exactly where they were meant to be.